Welcome to Heidi Reddit Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
The first story is titled, My 32F husband, 35M, had an emotional affair with a minor, who was his patient. I'm leaving and reporting him, but just now processing this. Just to preface this, I'm planning to meet with an attorney. After which I am reporting him to the medical board, his hospital, and contacting the girl's parents. This is sick and I'm ashamed it took me so long to realize how disgusting this is. There are other issues too. But this was what started the downward spiral 6 months ago, February. Anyways, we were in Paris and he was taking selfies but kicked me out of his selfie. Turned out while we were in Paris, he was also texting this girl who is a 16U cheerleader. I took his phone and read through all their FB messages. He asked that she only contact him through FB because it's safer. He only talked to her during times he was at work or late at night, very early AM, so I never caught on. I broke it off there. Problem is we have 2 kids. One is mine from a previous relationship. I get along great with my ex and his family, and then we have a 4-year daughter together. So over 2 weeks, kid-free in Europe, he was able to convince me he was just helping her through depression. There was nothing sexual said, no inappropriate photos sent. However, the conversations were highly inappropriate plus totally goes against doctor-patient relationship. If she was 30 it would have bothered me much less. But I can't get over this because of her age. I still don't trust him. He thinks I should be over it by now. But 16. I cannot be okay with that. He could have chosen an older woman his age, he chose a child. I am seeing a therapist next week and a divorce attorney. I just need to get all this off my chest since it's not something I've told friends. I know this will devastate the family too because it's sick AF. I'm ashamed I stayed this long and didn't report it right away, but I was so in shock the reality hasn't hit me until now. A user in the comments said, I am sorry but am confused. You say there was nothing sexual said, no inappropriate photos sent. However, the conversations were highly inappropriate. Which part was inappropriate? Cause if you don't have any solid or tangible evidence then there will not be a case when you report? The evidence you have provided is him asking her to only message him through Facebook cause it's safer. He could say that he didn't want to break the patient-doctor confidentiality cause his other media platforms were compromised. All I'm saying is you need to dig deeper and not let your emotions overtake your rationality. Another user said, I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm not supporting you, nor am I supporting your husband. I just think that not enough information is being given to come to a solid conclusion. So, what I'm getting from you is that he's some sort of therapist. Could you give examples of some inappropriate messages that were shared? If these inappropriate messages started from 6 months ago, it most probably would have progressed to sexual by now, so maybe you're reading into it too much? Therapists have a strict confidentiality agreement unless the therapist is convinced the patient will harm either him, herself or others. This means that maybe the girl has revealed something personal to the therapist and is unwilling to text him on medias that her parents regularly check. So, in that respect, it may be safer to text on FB. Furthermore, if you're concerned about your husband and his patient getting too close, therapists often share their own personal lives in order to get on a personal level with the patient in an attempt to get them to open up more. So, sending pictures of him on his trip may just be an in with her. I'd also like to note a tone of bias I'm sensing in your messages. It sounds like you're jealous of the girl. You've already said that you wouldn't care if she was his age, but an emotional affair should remain constant despite age. Also, what was the relevance or significance of mentioning that she's a cheerleader? The issue is that you think he's dallying with a minor, which should be just as bad whether she's a cheerleader or not. The next story is titled, How Can I Get My Grandma 91F to Stop Bringing Up and Lamenting the Fact That I 34M no longer speak to my lying, cheating dad 62M. My grandma is an amazing person. She's 91 but sharp, healthy, and generally very pragmatic. When my parents split up when I was a baby, she actually lived with us for a while. She's always been like a mother to me. When both of my parents weren't there and I was 18, she gave me a room at her house, let me borrow her car until I got a job, let me use her cell phone, and would regularly make me meals. She is smart and wise and kind and just all around one of my 3 favorite people in the world, with my wife and daughter being the other 2. But she's got a blind spot when it comes to my dad. He's her youngest and he has done the most for her. She has gone through some financial issues and no one has helped her as much as him. We all do help out. One of my sisters mows her lawn, I deposit money into her account every month, etc. But dad has done the most. To be fair, she has blind spots for one of my cousins and I too. She has only ever yelled at me once, and I deserved it. Was 18 and drank a 6-pack of beer, then puked on her carpet and passed out. My dad and I were once close, despite some very manipulative and controlling behavior on his part. He married Carrie 63F when I was 13 and she was amazing. Just a genuinely good person. I cannot think of anything I can criticize her on. She took on 3 stepkids and, no matter what, always treated us extremely well. She treated my dad well. I had never seen my dad so happy as when he was with her. He was convinced she was his soulmate. Carrie is giving, funny, kind, absolutely beautiful, looks 40 still and is very fit, and the best cook. Every single person in the family loves her. I remember being glad that my parents divorced so that dad could meet Carrie. Well, a couple of years ago he met Tina 38F. He began an affair and eventually moved out, telling Carrie that he just needed some time to think. I begged him to come clean with her and her a divorce instead of leaving her wondering WTF is going on. He wouldn't. So, I told her. And I told her that my siblings and I are here for her, always. We have kept in touch with her and we still see her as our stepmom. My dad has continued to suck. Seemed to completely forget that my daughter exists. Failed to make his yearly trip up because of work, yet took a vacation at the same time with Tina. Followed shortly thereafter by another trip with her. Ignored my daughter's calls. Forgot our birthdays. Etc. I finally told him that as long as he's with Tina, he will not have a relationship with me. My sister talks to him still, but only superficially. As a side issue, this girl is very much part of one political party, he tends to be of the other party, and since being with her, I've heard quite a bit more misogynistic and racist BS that came straight from her. He actually once said, in complete seriousness, that white men have it the hardest in our country. My grandma knows about this and she was very disappointed in my dad at first, but now she gets in arguments with my sister and me about how he's an adult and we have to let him live his life and we can't judge him. She keeps trying to get me to speak to him again. Martyr that he is, he will opine to her that his oldest son hates him, poor him, yada yada narcissist playbook yada. We will end up arguing where I tell her my mental health has been better since cutting him off and that he deeply hurts someone I love, not to mention my daughter who doesn't understand where the hell grandpa disappeared to and why grandpa won't answer her calls. I have explained this to my grandma over and over. My sister has explained it over and over. It never takes and then she guilts me because she doesn't want to die with us still not talking. Yes, she's old and anything can happen, but she's exceptionally healthy and independent. It always ends up heated and I hate it because I have never really argued with my grandma before. So, she's coming up for 2 weeks for the holiday. I know it's going to come up. Keeping in mind that this woman would give me the shirt off my back if I needed it, I need a good way to maneuver these talks. I don't want to be too firm or mean, but I cannot get into these conversations anymore. She's just so blind to his misdeeds. What do? A user in the comments said, "Hey grandma, it's not really up to you to manage the relationship between me and my dad. I understand that you feel hurt, but it hurts me a lot more. You say that he's an adult and that we have to let him live his life, but those things apply to me, too. Thanks for understanding." And then change the subject when she brings it up, and if she doesn't, then leave the house and make plans for another visit. I understand that it's rough for you to do this, especially because she has done so much for you and cares for you deeply, but you know what would be rougher? Being guilted into spend time with your dad. Best wishes, Op. The next story is titled, Update How Can I, 34M, Get My Grandma, 91F, to stop lamenting the fact that I refuse to speak to my lying cheating dad, 62M. Well, I decided to try to use my sister's saying when it came up. She will say, "Grandma, I love you, but you're just objectively wrong." Except that with my sister that usually ends the conversation, but it did not with me. My grandma and I have never fought in my entire life. This woman would do anything for me and has done so much, and I love her just about as much as you can love another person. But that night, we fought. We were both shouting, and my wife hid herself in her office so she wouldn't have to deal with it. She was essentially blaming my truly amazing stepmom for my dad cheating. It ended up with her saying maybe she should just go home, so I yelled at her to go home. I then called my dad, who didn't answer, and left him a message telling him to get her home. Called my sister to vent. Sister talked me down, it took a while, and told me that our grandma is friggin' old and not as there as she once was, and I should go talk to her instead of cutting her out. She said that even if I got grandma to agree with me, it would essentially be forcing a 91-year-old woman to admit to herself that her son is a puss. Because of all the good she has done for me, I went and talked to her. We stayed up until 2 a.m., no shouting, and talked. I told her about some of the abusive things my dad did, and her responses were often, "Well, what did you do to deserve that?" Same for abusive stuff he did to my sister. We ended by saying we love each other, and we need to just avoid talking about my dad. Turns out dear old dad has also convinced her that we no longer have family holidays because of me. Because I'm punishing him. My family and I only fly over to visit for either Thanksgiving or Christmas because 3 plane tickets around the holidays aren't cheap, plus there's coordinating time off work, plus I don't really want to spend vacation time on visiting my hometown twice in 2 months. So last year I was planning on coming for Christmas, but not Thanksgiving. That was the first time a family holiday didn't happen, and it's because my dad ditched the family to do some things with a client, aka screw his mistress. Since then, the family no longer does anything for the holidays, so I don't fly over. We spend both holidays now with my wife's family who lives 2 hours away because nothing is going on in my hometown. Yet he convinced her that I caused it. He convinced her that me being NC with him isn't for my mental health but to punish him. He equated his relationship with his mistress to my relationship with my wife. And she bought it. I've concluded that, at her age, nothing is going to change. Her son could murder one of her other kids and she would find a way to justify it. Just the day after I told her all the stuff he has done, she was crazy trying to buy him a nice Christmas gift and making sure it was perfect. I've just accepted that this is how she apparently is. But I feel completely different about her now. I feel like all of my memories with her are tarnished. She was screaming at me in defense of my abuser. This is the same woman who cut contact with her own abusive mother. If you asked me a week ago who I think the best person in the world is, I would have said her. I really saw her as a mother. Now I can't. It's just not the same and I'm very depressed about it. My wife has been supportive, but I almost feel like I lost another parent. My mother is dead and obviously my dad and I are NC. It's like this huge loss, yet she's still here until Thursday. We are getting along fine, cooked together, joked together, etc. But I'm honestly glad I'm going back to work on Wednesday. Any advice on how to deal with this feeling would be helpful. The next story is titled, I found out there is no business trip. I, 30M, wanted to leave a gift at her 27F desk at work for her birthday while she was on her business trip. When I got there, I found out that there was no business trip. She had been calling out sick, as did the coworker she told me I had, nothing to worry about. She had been sending me photos of her hotel room and all the sightseeing she was doing. I'm an acquaintance of his wife, so after I contacted her on FB, I got her number and talked on the phone. Same story, he was on a business trip, and they had been exchanging photos of similar sites. That's when I explained to her what I found out. She was silent for a while, then told me he had cheated on her many times apparently, and she's actually been working on serving him with divorce papers while under the guise of reconciliation. She apologized profusely, but of course none of this is her fault. She called their workplace to find out on her own. They told her the same thing, he called out sick. So, here we are, my GF is still texting me like normal, pretending she's sitting at a boring meeting. I'm extremely distraught and my anxiety is at an all-time high, but, surprisingly I'm not crying this time. This isn't the first time I was cheated on. I realized how much of a fool I had been. I saw the red flags, but I once again ignored them, thinking I just had trust issues that I needed to work on. I packed all her stuff and will wait for her to come back tonight. Asterisk update. App's wife confirmed that the papers will be served Monday, and that she's not worried about any blowback from me confronting my ex. So, I went ahead and confronted her. I will paste what I said. I know you're not on a business trip. I packed your stuff and left them outside for you. You'll have to find your own ride from the airport. I am beyond heartbroken and angry that everything we had built together meant nothing to you. I hope he was worth it. I am totally messed up in the head ATM, so I don't know when the next update will come, but I will make sure to do so. I appreciate all the suggestions, comments and words of support. She's blowing up my phone, so I blocked her number. Her sister tried to reach me, so I informed her of the situation. She's shocked, embarrassed, and upset. She will drive my ex from the airport and help pick up her stuff. I have her spare key, so there's no need to worry about my safety. Someone suggested taking a vacation from it all. I might actually do that, but first I need some time to get myself right again. I had an anxiety attack. Very nearly called my ex too, out of habit. That realization made me even more sad. This suck. Update 2. So apparently App's wife, let's just call her Jenny, inquiry, along with mine, set off a flag at their company HR and they decided to investigate. Makes sense. You would think a married woman would know her husband was sick at home. So, the cat's out of the bag. She told them everything. I'm my ex's emergency contact, so they tracked my number and contacted me about half an hour ago, asking how she was doing. She called out sick and hasn't responded in a few days. I told them everything as well. She wasn't sick. She had told me she was on a business trip but lied. She went on a trip with that butthole and is cheating on me with him. Everything just spilled out. I guess I still have so much bottled up I need to let out. So that's still developing ATM. Meanwhile, since I'm up, I might as well update you all. So shortly after I texted my ex yesterday, and she started blowing up my phone, Jenny texted me that AP has been texting her, being much more communicative than normal, and eventually asked if anything was up and what she was doing. She played along. This pretty much confirms that him and my ex were together. My ex and her sis came and picked up her stuff after they landed last night. They didn't knock. I didn't open the door. After they were done, they sat in their car for a while. I could see her sister's hand gestures moving frantically as they talked. Maybe she was lecturing her or what, I don't know. She was clearly upset. Ex was buried in her own hands. After a while she got out and knocked on my door. A lot of Redditors suggested completely ghosting her, but I decided I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to know what she had to say for herself, and I wanted to see her cry. Boy, what a crap show. It was painful. Lying, gaslighting, deflecting. It meant nothing. She begged to work it out and promised to block him on everything, she'd keep her phone unlocked, etc. At one point she even tried to guilt-trip me. I asked her to show me her phone. She refused. She refused. I was done. I told her to get out of my face and never contact me again. She burst further into tears and pleaded until she eventually agreed to give me her phone. I found everything on FB Messenger. Sexts, nudes, videos. Conversations about me, how clueless I was, how she felt guilty but was too horny to care ATM. I took screenshots and sent them to myself, which I later forwarded to Jenny. Gave her back her phone and told her it was over. Not going to lie, it still hurt watching her cry in such despair. But I had to remind myself that she's not sorry she cheated, she's only sorry she got caught. She knew I had been cheated on before and how traumatic that was for me. It didn't matter. She was willing to risk throwing away 5 beautiful years together. And for what? I closed the door and talked with my mom and dad on the phone for a while, and then pretty much cried myself to sleep. I told Jenny that I was here for her if she needed any help or support, and if she needed a place to stay, she is more than welcome to stay with me and my brother. I'm already dreading today. I don't know what to do with myself ATM. I can't even get back to sleep. Users in the comments said, I had a similar experience. Wife told me she was going on a 2-week work trip with about 8 other coworkers. Turned out the first half of her work trip was all personal and she spent the entire time with the man I had already suspected she was cheating with. In the weeks leading up to this trip, no matter how many times I asked for info on this trip, she gaslighted, trickled truth and flat out lied about it all. Despite how we fought over text during that time, when she returned from that trip, she fed me more half-truths and did a complete 180 begging me to work on the marriage with her. Something happened between them that turned her off, I suppose. IDK, maybe she found out he's lousy in bed. This was not the first time she cheated, so things were already bad between us, of course. She denied ever having sex with him and said they did travel and visit personal friends together but slept in separate rooms and hotels. I asked both her for proof, hotel receipts, and she refused. I even contacted the AP and of course he was too scared to even talk to me. I told her even if you did not have sex it's still cheating. Good luck to you, man. I know it sucks. The next story is titled, Update. Found out there is no business trip. An update on my situation I posted last week in which I found out that my GF lied about being on a business trip and was actually traveling and cheating on me with her coworker. Jenny, App's wife, informed me that AP and my ex both got fired from their job. Not only that, but on the same day, he was served the divorce papers. They had a huge argument and he started slamming and hitting stuff. He never touched her, but she still does not feel safe to be around him. Her parents live in Korea, so she will be moving in with me until she can find her own place. My brother is deployed right now, so his room is vacant. As for my ex, I hear from her sister that she moved back in with her parents and has been crying nonstop. She has not left the house since and isn't talking to anyone. Her dad called me a few days ago to apologize. All the years I've known him, he was always quiet, cold, and distant, but over the phone he was very warm, and offered me some much-needed words of comfort and advice. As for me, I am not good, at all, but I know these things take time to work through. I've been here before, but it hurts just the same. 5 years down the drain. She was my rock, the one person in this world I could turn to and open to, and now I can't do just that. Was it worth it? Is that all those 5 years meant to you? She was such an upstanding person, independent, hardworking and honest. She always had her crap together, and you could tell she was going to be going places in life. Her energy just made you want to stay on top of your crap. But now it's like I don't know who she is anymore. Everyone knows what she did. I had a moment of poor judgment and opened up to someone who had a big mouth. Her close friends are upset and are accusing me of doing that on purpose to get back at her. I really don't care to argue with people who knew about her affair the entire time. One of them even encouraged it. I never liked them. I always thought my ex was so far above them, she always seemed out of place. But now I see exactly where she got it from. It's saddening and disappointing to see her fall so far down. I will start boxing next week with my friend, and he will also coach me on nutrition and overall, how to eat healthier. I've been itching to try grilling, so right now I'm thinking about pulling out my brother's Weber and learn. I'm trying to keep myself busy. I work from home, so everything still reminds me of her. Someone suggested rearranging the house. I think that's a great idea. That's all the updates I have for you guys. I don't think there will be more, but if anything major pops up I will make an update. Thank you so much for all the support, words of kindness and advice. *edit Oh, I've been given an opportunity to travel to New Orleans next month super cheap. Jenny and I are thinking about going to get away from all this crap. We've never been, and we are both foodies, so this might be just what we need. A user in the comments said, "Good progress." Her friends, who are angry at you, sound like real garbage. If they knew about the affair and approved of it, they deserve nothing more than your everlasting contempt. Duck those people. They are as bad as she is. One thing you should think about. Mourn the relationship. It's healthy to do that. Just don't put her on too high of a pedestal. She actively planned this. She put a lot of work in on a long-lasting affair and actively belittled you to the AP while doing it. Her business trip plan turned out to be pretty stupid, since all it took to collapse was 2 phone calls and a birthday present. For which, she and AP lost their jobs. You're not dealing with a criminal mastermind. Still, it's on her. She chose to betray you. She can't claim she was drunk, or someone else convinced her. It's 100% on her. Sounds like you had a great relationship, but you never saw anything but what she wanted you to see. Don't mourn forever, you are young, you have options. You might wish to avoid taking up romantically with Jenny, as that could be used against her in her divorce. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.